Okay, I put one of these block heaters in my neighbor's Buick Envoy. It's a 2007 Envoy, but I think it more or less applies to Trailblazers. That's the Chevy brand or Chevy model, an Olds Bravada, and a Buick Rainier. And I think this is actually several years. If I'm not mistaken, it'd be 01 to 09 with the. And this is exclusively with the 4.2 inline 6 engine. The Chevy parts are stupid expensive. I bought her a Temro block heater off of Amazon. This is a Zero Start. Their number 17890, and as I recall, it was like 50 bucks Canadian, so no big deal. Came with the little, it's a screws in. I should have started this video much sooner. I just realized that I had trouble finding anything online about it, and I thought, well, I'll make a video, but it's a little late, and I'd be damned if I'm going to take what I already done apart. So you're just going to have to take my word for how it goes together. There's a plug in the side of the 6-cylinder block on the forward side, or on the right hand side of the block, so the driver's side of the block. It's about the middle of the block, so it'll be between cylinder 3 and 4, and it's fairly high up on the block. It's a real bitch to find. Somebody online suggested that you should take the tire off, so when we go out to the truck, you'll see I've got the left front tire off. That was an absolute waste of time. Doesn't solve anything. You can't see the son of a bitch from the underneath. The diff and the transfer case are in the way. I was able to kind of reach in and get my finger close to it. I could shine a flashlight on it and see where it was, but there was flat out no hope that you were going to get a wrench on it. The plug that's in there is this little guy here, and he takes a 17 metric X, so that you got to get that in, but it's in there on the side of the block, and it's not even square with the world. It points down ever so slightly, like probably 3 or 4 degrees downward tilt, which gets really exciting when you go to put the block heater back in. Anyway, I'll show you what I did. But like I said, I've already got the new heater in, so it's not going to be like, this is not a detailed do this step. I'll show you what I've done, and I can point out what needs to come off. And if you're lucky, you might even be able to see the block heater lurking way down in underneath, but it's well hidden. It's a real prick of a spot. Now, like I said, this is a genuine prick of a spot, but that silver beast that the flashlight is shining on with the little orange stuff, that's the installed block heater. So that's where you got to get at. And what I did to get at it, I'm now going to back up a bit. Problem is getting some light on here so you can actually see what's going on. Back away. What I did was I took the mount for the ECU, the engine control unit. So it normally mounts on here, 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 and here, and the computer itself is pushed way down there right now. You got to undo some snap connectors here. I didn't disconnect any connectors, but there's some of those push pins that hold some of the wire bundles in place. You got to loosen them up off of here, and then roll the computer back and down out of the way. So that's the first step. Get the damn computer way down out of the way. I'll just grab it and pull it up here so you can kind of see. This lighting situation is not good. I'm sorry. I've watched crappy videos before, but I'm making one now. This is the computer, pushed way down here, out of sight. There he is. Okay, so there's the engine computer. So the first step is to release it, and I'll show you the reinstallation of it so you'll see how to release it. Release it and then push it way down there, out of the way. Now, when you take the bracket that holds the computer off, there's a bolt in there, nut on there, and a nut on there, and this metal bracket then sits on these bottom two studs. The problem is that there's a third bolt that holds this metal bracket on, and it must be an 8mm thread. It's got a 10mm head on it. It might be 7, it doesn't matter what the thread is. It's got a 10mm head on it, and I was able to feel it and find it, but I sure as hell couldn't see what I was doing. You can get one hand down in here between the fender and the bracket, and you can bring another hand down over here in this side, and you have to go by feel. Take my word for it, there's one more bolt right down there, goes into the side of the engine block this direction. You reach down in there, and you take that bolt out. Once you get that bolt out, and then it'll pop, then this bracket will pop off. Now I've got the bolt back in, so I can't pop it off, but this bracket will come off of here, and it'll fall down out of the way as well. It's still going to be kind of in the field of view, but you can at least get it enough out of the way so that you can then get at that plug that I showed you earlier, because that plug will be stuck into the side of the block, and you need to get it out. And the way I got it out, I'm just going to stop this for a minute and get set up. Okay, the way I got it out, I used the swivel, that little hex, whatever the hell you call it, 17mm hex, and a couple of extensions, 1/2-inch extensions. And when I'm using them, I will often do this. I'll tape everything together so it doesn't fall apart when you're just in the middle of trying to push it into place. And in this case, I actually taped it with that little bit of a bend to it, so that I could originally get it lined up and get it pushed into the plug on the side of the engine block. That was just precisely to avoid that kind of nonsense. Okay, so we'll take this arrangement back over to the engine, and that whole affair slid down in. Once you get that bracket out of the way, the socket with the bend in it slides down in there, and you can see the plug in the side of the engine. You line everything up and then torque the hell out of it with a bar to get it started and get it out. Okay, if I'm going to make a career of this YouTube bullshit, I'm going to have to invest in some better lighting, because this is really not very good. But then I think most of what you're going to see is the back of my hand. But anyway, we will try. I said earlier I'd show you how this ECU goes in place. So remember, way down underneath there's that bracket folds around like that, and there's a single bolt into the side of the block. It's a perfect prick to get out, but once it's out of there, this bracket will actually fall away a little bit. It comes off of these two studs. It'll still be in your way, but you can kind of get at the plug. You literally have difficulty even seeing that damn plug with this thing in place. Like I've tried coming through the wheel well, and you forget about it from underneath. I've had it up in the air. You absolutely cannot touch that plug, and you can get at it. Actually, the access is fairly easy once this plate is out, but there's a bit of a gong show getting this stupid plate out of there. I'm going to go get the plug just to reinforce what we're talking about. So this is the this is the little devil right here. It's a hex plug. It threads into the side of the block, down underneath this bracket that I'm not even sure what that bracket, what specific purpose it balances. This must be an AC line. Kind of steadies it, and it really doesn't actually support the ECU. The ECU is sitting on these two studs and these two bolts up here. So I'm not absolutely sure what the GM engineers thought they were accomplishing by even putting that plate in there, but it's there. It's got to get out of the way, and once you get it out of the way, your access to this is not bad. It's still not great, but you can at least see the son of a gun and get at getting it out. And aside from this, I guess you could probably take the alternator off and get some access through there, but that wouldn't be pretty either. This is about the most direct route that I could see to get at it. So to remount the ECU, or in reverse order to disconnect the ECU, that little plastic thing sits on there. There's two bolts hold the top of it, like so. Another one over here. I tried to show you the back of my hand so that you can. My wife used to watch Ed the Ukrainian painter. I forget what the hell his name was. He's dead now, but most when you were watching Ed, he was muttering to himself, and you could see the back of his hand, and you could kind of vaguely tell that he was painting something, but never really learned very much. But she enjoyed him, and I guess I'm Bob the Ukrainian mechanic. So that goes on like that. The ECU clips into the bottom of this thing. So when you first encounter it, it'll be there in your way, and it'll be clipped in the top here. So you got to pry those out, get it to fall away. And like I said before, where'd my pointer stick go? There's some of those snap press-in things. They look like this, but they've got wire bundles on them. So they look like that. They push into some holes down there and down there, and they just steady all these various wire bundles that come off of the ECU. So eventually I'll try to push some of them back into place if I can remember where they all went. You want to do that first. Then you want to pry this ECU out of the top here, lay it out of the way, and I pushed it way down there to get it completely out of my way. Then you want to take this plastic bracket off. They're all 10mm heads. Two bolts here. Maybe a bit better light. Bolt here. Nut on the stud here. Another one around behind there. All 10mm. Take them out. Flop this bracket. Take it right out of the way. Then you'll be able to see the metal bracket. The metal bracket will be just hanging on the studs at the top, and that one last cap screw way down underneath. 10mm socket. I used a 1/4" socket, 10mm, a couple of extensions, got it out to where I could get the ratchet on it, and whoever had this apart the last time didn't tighten mine very tight, so I didn't have to torque very hard on it. If it was torqued in there good, it might be more exciting. Mine actually came out pretty easy. Take it out, flop this whole nonsense off to the side, and then you can get at this plug. Get the plug out. You're going to have a gush of coolant. I drained the coolant on the bottom rad hose, but the engine doesn't drain, so there was about a gallon of GM red fell on my shop floor. I doped the new block heater plug with, True Blue it's called. I'll go get the can and show it here so you know what it is. I put it on everything. It's good on hydraulic fittings, it's good on engine coolant. We used to use it on anhydrous ammonia. It's pretty good stuff, and it sets up, but it always stays loose enough that you can break it out again. It's miserable stuff when you get it on your hands. I don't know what dissolves it. Nothing, as far as I can tell. So it just eventually wears off. I'll go get the can and show you what it looks like. Yeah, well, so much showing you the can because the labels wore off of mine, but that's what the stuff looks like. It's just kind of a gooey, sticky mess, and I put it on the threads. You wouldn't, the new heater came with Teflon tape on it. I hate that shit, but I just left it on, put some True Blue on over top of it. That's about it. Then you got to thread route the cord. This one came with one of those warts that GM likes to put on the end of the cord. I'll go get it here. So GM puts this thing on the end of their cords. The reason I've got this in my hand is because I cut the son of the bitch off. The way this is supposed to work, that's some kind of a thermostat or temperature switch, and it's supposed to turn your block heater on when the truck gets cold and turn it off when the outside temperature gets warm. And so all sounds wonderful, and it's got something to do with emissions, and I even read somewhere that it might set a code without this. However, this stupid son of a bitch doesn't turn on until -20. And I don't like driving when it's past -30. So what? I'm only going to plug my vehicle in from -20 to -30. The whole point of this is to prevent engine wear, and when it gets down to 0 centigrade or 32 Fahrenheit, I want the son of a gun plugged in. That's why I'm putting the block heater in it. So I screwed around with this for a little while this afternoon, trying to test to make sure that everything was working. And my initial response was, well, it needs to be cold, so I put in a pail of snow. But of course that's not cold enough because it's got to get to -20 in order to turn on. So finally I got pissed off and I snipped it off, and I put a real plug on the end of it, and everything's good. Now it may set the check engine light, but this is my neighbor's truck, and as far as I can tell, his check engine light's on pretty well non-stop all the time because she's always got something on with it. So I'm not really that worried about it. I can't believe that GM would be that stupid to make it set the check engine light just because you use the block heater the way normal people do. Anyway, that's the plug. That was on the end. Your call. I cut the son of a gun off and put a real plug on it. Okay, there's the truck in question. That's a 2007, I believe, GM Envoy, and like I said at the start, there's a Trailblazer, I forget, a Rainier, I think it's the same thing. There's a variety. I think it's a GMT 360 platform that they were built on. I'll just zoom in on my little plug that I went on and on about. There. That plug has absolutely no thermal protection. When you plug it in, the electrons follow up the cord and go to the block heater, which is how I was taught block heaters should work. Very simple to test it. You stick your multimeter on the 2 flat pins on the plug and set your scale to ohms. In this case I had about 30 ohms and change, 33 or something, so simple math, 120 volts divided by 30 ohms gives 4 amps. 4 amps flowing up that cord times 120 volts is about say a 500 watt heater, which all fits. I can't remember what the Temro claimed for that heater, but they're usually 400 to 500 watts for those little ones. A big block heater would be in the 700 watt range. Anyway, that's it. Here's a pro tip. I keep a drawer full of those little zip ties, these guys. All different sizes. I buy them from China for next to nothing. Make sure I never run short. But what will happen, doesn't have to be the Chinese ones, any one of these. If you find that when you tighten them up and pull hard on them, the bastards are breaking on you, they're getting dried out. They're nylon. Nylon absorbs water, and conversely, nylon lets water go. So I keep this in my shop. It's a cheap spray bottle. Keep a little bit of dish soap and they keep a little water in it. It's great for testing tires. That's why I had it in the shop in the first place. If you're looking for a leak in a tire, you spray the tire, it makes bubbles, that's where the leak is. Any fool knows that. However, it also works very well for wetting my zip ties. And what I used to do was I would wet the zip ties just with regular old water, which works fine, but the soap actually breaks the surface tension on the zip tie and they get wetter and it soaks into them better. So, pro tip, soak your zip ties. You don't have to do it very often, but whenever I think about it, I make sure I wet them down. And I'll still occasionally have one of them break, but way less often than if you end up with dried up ties. If you got old zip ties and you wonder why they're breaking, it's because they're dried out.